All right, welcome back everyone. Sorry about that. Just had some audio issues. Accidentally unplugged a cable. Don't you hate it when that happens? So I apologize. I'm going to turn down the music a little bit as well. And let's just get this party started, right? So give me 1 second, switching over. Thank you so much for joining me. This is what I'm talking about as I dive into this. And as you can see right here. All right, fantastic. So this is what I'm talking about. Hopefully this is okay. All right, we good now? We good, folks? It's this pseudo sort of like 3D look. If that works for you. So again, how is this stuff created? It's actually really easy. We don't like making things complex. I apologize for just the in and out earlier, but hey, fantastic. Let's kind of dive into this, and you'll have to give me a second. So this is actually what I am doing. So this is like a pseudo 3D is what it is, just so you know. And it's not like you're actually making 3D models, but it is easy to work with. So let's kind of dive into it. And now I can see everybody's chat way better. Good to hear. Probably even a little hot. So I'll just turn it down a touch. So I'm going to dive into this. Welcome back, Joanna. Oh, thank you for just helping me out today. Whew. Okay, cool. Let's get this party started. All right. So again, this type of look, like how do we do that, right? It's actually pretty easy, right? First off, what I would suggest is probably just getting a map, right? Getting some sort of pattern or really anything that you want to maybe wrap around a sphere. So I'm going to take this, drag this down. In fact, let's use the blend tool. Why not? Blend tool right there. Boom. Boom, blend those two together. And let's update that. Specify. Steps 8. All right, just one of those days, folks. There we go. Selecting two objects, blend tool, click, click. There we go. Okay, in fact, let's go click. Click. I'm just getting a cool pattern initially, right? Preview. Again, sometimes things work out okay, sometimes they don't. That's good. Stretching that out, I'm going to make turn this into sort of like have it wrap around a sphere is the idea. If that works for you. And thank you so much for joining me. Moving that down, you understand how this works, right? Here's my cool pattern. I could even make this a slight gradient. So let's go in here. Let's make it sort of company colors, if you will. Sort of like red to gray. And this is what I want to wrap around a sphere. So what do? I grab an ellipse tool, zoop, drawing that out. Hello, Keith and Pearson and Randy and Motaz. Here's my sphere right here, as you can see. Okay, and I'm just going to give it a stroke. And how do I get these lines on this particular, shape, right? I could do a clipping mask. This is not realistic. Let's face it. If I'd go over here and I have this, for instance, on top of this shape, it's not going to be realistic, right? We don't want to do this. Make clipping mask. No, that's not what we want. We want to go beyond that. I'm going to take this shape, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my scissors, and I'm going to cut right here. You see right there? Cutting right there. Cut with the scissors. C for scissors if you want the shortcut. And I'm only going to make a half a circle. Okay? From there, good to have you here, Peque Pascual from Mexico. I'm going to be in Mexico later this week. Taking this line, then what do? We go to Effect, 3D, and then we want to revolve. Can you see that? Zoop. Make that larger. Revolve around that line. Just make that, lathe that line, as it's called. So we're going to revolve. I get this option. I'm going to turn on preview. Sure enough, it does that revolve, but it does it the opposite direction. So what do? We flip it. We go from left edge to you guessed it, right edge. Boom. There's our sphere, okay? Easy enough so far, right? We can adjust the lighting and different things as well, right? So we'll go to more options. We can see how the light plays with this sphere, right? That's pretty straightforward as well. Where's the color coming from? Well, let's just click OK. Let's go in here and you'll see Properties panel. Zoop. It applies this effect. And the color is actually coming from the stroke. Okay, so I'm going to click right there, excuse me, the stroke color, and I can change that to white. Okay, and now you can obviously see that's where the color is being picked up from. What's up, Babis from Athens? Good to have you here. Good morning. Let me know if you have questions. I'm here to answer them. Now, what do I want to do? I want to wrap these lines around the sphere. So taking these lines right here, I'm going to open up the Symbols panel right here. Zoop. And I'm going to drop these lines right in there. And it's just going to be called lines because I'm creative like that. Let's go ahead and expand that object. It does say that we don't have to expand it. So object expand. I'm glad it did that because it's saying, hey, you know what? Make sure it's not that complex. Okay, here we go. It's actually in there twice now. But there we have. We have to make sure these objects are symbols right in here. Hello from Sweden and Hungary. Wow, good to have such amazing, just people from like all over the world. You make me want to travel. Okay. Okay, you can see a little bit of gradient banding. Can you? That's probably my video card, by the way. So that's where that's coming from. We'll have to talk about that later. But now what do I want to do? I want to select this sphere. I'm going to go over here to, remember, this is a revolve effect. Clicking right there, preview, and what do? We're going to hide that. We're going to go right down here to map art. Click. Now we can map art on any 3D object, okay? Do you know about this, Igor? Do you know? Will it work with images? It just has to be a symbol. That's the only thing. So you have to embed the image if you want to use an image. So good question, Igor. You are the man. You are a top fan. Feel free to hit share, like, and all that fun stuff too. But check this out. This gives me the different profiles right in here. In fact, right up here, it's going to map it to, say, this surface. But what I want to first do is select my lines. Boop. There's my lines. Let's scale to fit. Boom. I'm usually not that good. Okay, so key thing to remember here is sometimes, in fact, technically that's on the inside. That's what's fascinating. See, can you tell it's probably just moving slightly, but I'm showing you that these are the different surfaces. There's 3 different there should be, no, I guess there's just 2. Sometimes you'll get 3 different surfaces. So you get the inside of the sphere, maybe the edge, and then the outside. So just make sure, of course, that you have, in this case we have 2, but just make sure you have the outside, which is actually the 2 of 2. And from there, select the lines, boop. Scale to fit. Zoop. Maybe it is the first one. And this is what I typically do. I typically have to play with what's there. But you can see my lines like so. Cool. Easy enough. What version of software is this? This is Illustrator CC, the latest version. Creative Cloud version. Technically 23, but it is there in other Creative Cloud versions. So this looks pretty cool. I could treat this just like anything else. I can actually go back into the 3D revolve effect and I can rotate it. So now we can have that cool look, okay? And that looks pretty good, but here's another thing I can do, which I really like. Julio from Mexico, is I can turn off plastic shading and I can have a couple different versions. In fact, so let's do that right now. Move this over. We're going to have 2 different versions. We're going to have this first version, the version on the left. For this version, I'm going to change it from plastic shading to no shading, like that. Clicking OK, and you guessed it, you have this flat, really cool look that you see right here. Cool. Katarina from Poland. I'm part Polish on my mom's side, so it's good to see you here. Right, just like that. Boom, boom, done. Easy. Let's do some more things right in here. Like I wanted to do something for Earth Day. I said, okay, we could have this flat Earth, right? Again, the Earth is not, it is in this case. This is the only case where the Earth is flat, is when you're working with this initial graphic. But once you have this map created, or this map created, right? And technically this one could be a little bit different, but we just take these lines, we open up the symbols panel, we drop that right in there, and we call it, you know, this is the land mass, like that. It's a movie clip. Done. Once we have those symbols established like that, then I can go over here to this symbol, and instead of mapping, of course, those lines, we want to clear those, and we want to add the landmass that I just created. Little preview, there you go. Click OK, and let's rotate this around. So we could highlight Poland. Let's go over here to Europe. Like that. Kind of like that. Let's rotate it this way. There we go. Click OK. Done. Hello from Italy. Okay, Dimitri, good to have you here as well. Keep in mind, this is just really one line, right? Which is pretty darn awesome that this is just still that one line. I can always expand it. You can make a Pepsi bottle. That brings up a good point. Let's take it to the next level. Export type, sorry about that. Let me take a look. Export type in the symbol panel. I don't know. I guess I need to kind of drop something in there to see what you're talking about. I don't know. Big thing is this does have to be a symbol, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to make something like we'll do, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do a brand. So we're going to do, work with me, water. Boom, boom. This is a new bottled water brand, okay? And I'm going to do this to point out something specifically. Right, here's water. Let's move that to the back. Notice how it is obviously going to be transparent, or excuse me, opaque, because there's white there. But this is my new water brand, okay? Let's duplicate this. Let's just go like what do we call this? Spring water, and the bottle is going to be 100% recycle. 100% recycled bottle. Something like that. I'm just adding a couple lines in here because I want to also point out that we can do a couple more things. We could actually use, we could do our branding, make all of our branding in Illustrator, and then we can use something like Adobe Dimension. You can see that right down here, Adobe Dimension, to do more of our 3D compositing. Okay, so we're just doing pseudo 3D here. We're making our label. Let's change this weight to something really thin and elegant, and the size to something like that. There we go. Cool. Yes, thank you, Katerina. You are too kind. Going into my library panel, let's go to miscellaneous is where I'll just put it. Grabbing these assets, dropping them in there. I've made a pseudo 3D object, and this is really called my water logo, that I can then use dimension, just so you know, create a new document, and I can use a can, a soda can. So I don't necessarily want to lathe or make my own soda can. I want to transition to using Adobe Dimension. You said 3D can, boom, let's drop that in. As you can see, there is the can. Now let's just go ahead and zoom to fit selection. And what do we have? Let's go to our library panel, go to miscellaneous. We'll grab that pseudo 3D that we just made. as soon as it loads, and then we'll drop it right on there. So sorry if I missed some questions. Where'd I get the polka dot swatches? I made all those. I made all that stuff, by the way. Everything in my swatches panel. And it's taken some time to load, by the way. Oh, hello. I guess I just added something. Come on, library panel. Be my friend. All right. All right, so what I have right in here is like the pull ring, the liquid, and the can. And on the can, that's where I want to add a certain material. So right in here, I can add an image. So I can drag and drop a selection from my computer. So that's all I'm going to do. Just do that right now. Zoop, 0, view. Actually, let's do this. You ready for this? Taking this asset panel, asset export panel, dropping this right in. And what are we going to do? We're just going to save this as a PNG, the actual size. Let's get rid of that one, get rid of that. Oh, I don't know, maybe we'll keep that. I'm really liking all this stuff. Let's group this, drop it in. There we go. Final. All right, this is probably a little bit more detailed than you were expecting, but basically I made this 3D sphere. I exported out the graphics. I could also link them, but for some reason my library panel is not loading. But on my desktop, here we have this final PNG file. So I'll just drop that right there. And there you have it. Again, I'm in Dimension. And from here, let's scale this down. Now that I have that selected, can material. There we go. You can see I'm kind of moving that around, but I've actually placed that on the object. And then I can select it and move it as well, which is going to take me a little bit longer to grab that particular material. And I actually want to get back into good old Illustrator and show you one more thing as well. And yeah. Okay, Ziga asks if we can export 3D objects to After Effects and Animate. It doesn't make 3D, it's just going to make these flat graphics. And that's what I want, because in this case, I'm making just something flat, right? A flat graphic. If I, and that's it. It's not making an OBJ file, for instance. But I could go beyond that, for instance. I could take the W. Let's try this. Ready? Bear with me. I'm going to show you one more 3D capability in Illustrator, and I should say Pseudo 3D. Crank up that font. You ready for this? This is going to be super interesting. So here's my font. This is the W. At this point, I'm going to go to 3D, and now I'm going to go to Extrude and Bevel. Selecting Extrude and Bevel, Preview. There, it's actually extruding it out. I can increase the depth, and you can see what is happening. I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to change the fill to a color so you could see what it looks like. But it wraps it in this effect, this 3D extrude and bevel effect, like that, which I could still rotate or flip, make it isometric, whatever the case may be, kind of like that. Okay, so from here I can actually map the same way, map art to it. So now what we have is we have one of 16 different surfaces, right? And notice how it's highlighting the front of the W. I got lucky. That's usually the one they will select. But as I click through, look, this looks exactly the same, but technically it's highlighting the back side of it. So I want one of 16 from here. Let's grab this landmass. In fact, let's grab maybe this one. Might be a little bit easier to see if I grab this one. And you can see what it's doing. It's mapping it to the very front, as you can see. Cool. Clicking OK. You get the idea. In fact, you know what? I want to go to Map Art. Let's start to go around this. Let's select the final side, which happens to be 9 of 16. We're going to grab that same symbol. We're going to shift it over. Maybe make it look a little larger, kind of like that. But at this point, I can actually line this up. It might take some rotation. It's going to get really complex in here. There we go. So you can see kind of what's happening over here. And I'm actually visually seeing it on the object as I rotate this into place. And what I want to do is I want to connect the two sides. There we go. Look at that. Boop. You got it. Click OK. Done. Cool. So hopefully that makes sense. That is still that pseudo 3D. Again, we would just do this for just some quick examples of sort of just generating some 3D content. I would want to jump ahead and actually use dimension. Let's turn that on. Ultimately, for most of my 3D work, right? You saw right in here, dimension is going to give you that full-on 3D effect. I'm having such a hard time selecting that darn texture. It's driving me crazy. And I apologize. Yeah. Just want to select that texture. It's all I want to do. All right, so we'll work on that later. Again, this wasn't meant to be in a dimension tutorial, but you get the idea. Can the 3D be expanded in Illustrator? Yes, it can, and that's exactly what you'll want to do. Especially right here, as I ungroup these. This shape right here, you can see it's still editable, has that 3D revolve, but I'd want to go in here and expand appearance like that. Okay, you can see a number of those objects. Let's expand this again. And you can see I actually can select these are individual little shapes. So right in here, I actually can ungroup that a number of times. Wait for it. Let me paste that in. X. Get rid of that. Let's paste this in. Here you go. Ready for this gradient? Swatches. Oh, I wish I had a nice gray to teal. But there you have it. Giving you these individual shapes, as you can see. And again, I can have all the fun that I want now as I start to work on this a little more and get lost in what I'm doing. There we go. There's your new version just for fun. You get the idea. Yeah, I needed to expand that a couple times. I need to ungroup it, things like that. But yeah, here's the sort of like final shape. Let's move that over. Cool, cool. Again, just a little bit of 3D, as you can see, in Illustrator can be done with really any shape that you have. Just go to Effect 3D and pick any one of these, whether you want to revolve, which I did first, extrude and bevel, or even rotate. Rotate is usually if you want letters in perspective, would be a good idea. And again, thank you so much. As you can see, you get the idea. Cool. All right, everyone. Well, have a beautiful day. Good to have you here. Mary McCarthy, top fan. You will have to catch up. Sorry about the audio issues in the very beginning. Not a big deal. You have this recording. Show me what you make. Happy Earth Day. Be nice to the earth. Make sure you're putting the right stuff in the recycle, by the way. That's kind of a big deal, but you know, you don't need me to lecture you. We just all have to do our part, right? And there's my design. Zoop. Little accent, something like that. All right, everyone, thanks so much. Vu and Afrosia and Munir, Julian, Vito, everyone have a beautiful day. Let me know if I can help you in any way possible. Just want to thank you for hanging out with me, and you can contact me on Twitter, as you can see, and Instagram if you want to keep the conversation going. Thanks so much, everyone. We will see ya.